Hi guys, this is Robin from Mannerly Mutts, and I'm making a series of videos about some collars that we sometimes use in dog training in addition to flat collars, leashes, and treats, depending on the dog, the age, the situation, the owner's needs, all of that stuff. So, this is the collar I typically use. It's a chain collar. This helps, number one, the best thing about this is if it's properly fitted, your dog won't slip out of it. So in a lot of flat collars, they have plastic parts made in China, and those can break off easily. So I don't often entrust my dogs or my clients' dogs' well-being to a flat collar that might break off. The other thing about it is the action of this for doing corrections. So when I put it on, I hold the ring in my left hand, I thread the chain through from above so that if this is my dog's face, it goes like this. That's the action you want. If it's on incorrectly, this is what you get. Before training with a chain collar, you should really be very familiar with the methods that are used by your particular trainer, or already are familiar with the chain collar, because it's not meant to choke your dog. You could make it do that if you wanted to, but we all have the ability to use this equipment correctly and not abusively. So it's just meant to be like a quick loose tight loose type. I call it a zip zap correction to notify the dog that whatever they did is not what they're doing. The reason that it's also helpful is because you can stand up straight when you're doing it. You don't have to morph into positions. You don't have to rely on the food. And everyone can be comfortable doing this correctly. You want to train on this collar until you don't need to give a correction. The point of the collar isn't to give, or any of these collars isn't to give corrections all the time. They're just a training tool. So I have one that fits on me. This is a whale tail one for dogs with really fat heads, where the size is not going to be proportionate or correct for their neck because of their fat head, so you don't want too much going off. So this is a little big for me. You basically want about 2 inches away from the dog's neck to give the correction. Like I said, well, I haven't said this yet, so I usually collar condition the dog by doing, Shayna, leave it! Shayna, let's go! By doing, you're getting into my tomato plants. By doing exercises like sit on the dog or long line. Those sort of exercises get the dog already familiar with the collar, so they're not freaking out because they can't get out of the collar. Some dogs that have never been on a collar are going to be particularly sensitive to this because they've never had a collar around their neck. So the correction would go like this. Robin, jump. 1 second. It's not painful. I'm not sure I could do it so it's painful, which is good. It just gives the action. There are other things that we've married to it, like molding and food rewards, and just a basic understanding of what they're doing before we bring this out. Similar to the chain collar is a nylon collar. It actually isn't similar in the way we correct with it because it doesn't have the zips in. The other thing I don't like about these is they're cloth, and they're going to wear out or get bitten through before the chain collar will. And what you should also know, that reminds me, what you should also know about any of these training collars is you really shouldn't have them on when you're not training or you're not supervising your dog closely, because they can choke them if they catch on something. So to put this one on, this one's a little small for me. I have it on the wrong way. I'll just switch. most of the times we have these collars on a certain way because dog trainers have had to pick a side to train their dogs on with these. Most of the obedience competitions go for left-sided training. So you can just, you know, put it on the other way if for medical reasons or whatever, you were not going to do left-sided training instead, right? So this is how this works more like a prong collar in the correction. So Robin, jump high. Well, that wouldn't really work in that command. Okay. Pretend I'm not sitting and I'm not going to sit. Robin, sit. Hold it. And again, it's been collar conditioned and treats and other things have already done molding before this happens. And Robin sits and then release. So the only time these collars should ever be tight is during a correction. So this has the zips in correction, which I like a lot more, but it does require good timing and getting used to the collar itself and the way it's used. Oh, the next collar is the prong collar. I typically use these if the chain collar is not enough, then you can provide less pressure on this collar, but get better results. And sometimes with thick-coated dogs, the chain, Shayna, let's go. The chain collar gets lost in their fur or gets tangled in their fur, and that's no good. And the fur, of course, makes the correction sometimes not work. What I hate about these collars are these damn clips and putting them on. That being said, they do have other types of collars that have a better closure on the D-ring side so that you don't have to play around with the clips. The other thing I don't like about this collar is because these are all clips, they could potentially break open on you during walk. So I always have a safety collar on with them. So this is always married to this when I'm using it. So now you have two collars on your dog. Let's see if I can even get this one on me. So like I said, the slip nylon collar correction is similar to what the prong collar correction would be. And you do want it pretty form-fitting to your dog's neck without removing some collars. I'm not going to get there, and I'm not even sure I can get this on. If you have arthritic hands, this is going to be hard for you. It's really difficult because you're basically bending the steel. Well, wait 1 second. I'll get one with the correct closing contraption. That's a Herm Springer one. I'm back, sorry about that. This is the one with, see how it has a clip there so you don't have to do all that foolishness? Oh yeah, that fits my neck better too. So again, so the correction on this would be, Robin, lie down. There you go. And it gathers up the skin in between. So a Herm Springer, this isn't a Herm Springer. So it's cheap, and it has these, they're not sharp, but they haven't really been professionally buffed and rounded. It's okay. Whereas a Herm Springer collar has had the edges much softer, buffed so that there's no sharpness on the ends. There shouldn't be sharpness on the ends, but less quality manufacturer is going to make a less quality product. And so the point is not for all these pointy things to stick in your dog's neck. It just gathers up skin. It's supposed to mimic like a mother dog putting her mouth around the puppy's dog's neck. It's in the right situation, they can be very effective, and they can actually be a lot kinder with the right dog than a collar like this. And get things, and get the dog so that they can have proper walks correctly and all that sort of thing. So again, we don't want them choking on this. That's not the point. You actually have to have a training plan in place to use any of the 3 collars we've gone over. So that being said, this is the electronic collar. I use a different brand. This is one of my clients' collars. This is Sport Dog. So I'm just checking to be sure it's on, because in the sun you can't see the green light beeping. So the green, or blinking. So the green light is blinking. I've checked it by doing my tone, right? This has 10 levels. The brand I use has 100 levels, not because I like the high levels, but because I like the much lower levels. So this collar probably starts where my my educator is on 20. All right, so put this around my neck. So you want to put it, Shayna, let's go. You want to put it flush around the neck. Hi, Bumpy. And the fatty part, I think, is probably would be the most comfortable. See? You don't want these nodes to go back and forth, because they will create sores on your dog's neck. Also, if your dog gets wet, it's best to take the collar off, dry the neck, and then put the collar back on. So like I said, this is on a 1. It's startling, but you know, it's not painful. So it just does, no matter how long I hold this button for, it only is a fraction of a second that goes on. It can also vibrate. I like my collars to come, if I have to choose between tone and vibrate, I prefer vibrate because I have some old dogs that are deaf. So it's easy to get them. They're not going to hear the tone, right? So, and this is the electronic, right into my neck right there. But like I said, that does feel similar to a 20 on the collars I use, which are Educator, which is fine. It's just that I like the Educator because it goes so far down that I don't, number 1, I don't even feel it. And I don't feel it until it's a 20. So I like to have that range in the collars to do it. So again, before I use this collar, they've probably been trained with treats. They've probably been trained with one of these if they're old enough, or, you know, so not all dogs are particularly obedient in their 1s and 2s, you know, so sometimes we'll use this and then we can get them on the way that, understanding the standard of performance that we want, and we're a team. And then I usually use this for my clients who like to go off-leash places, beaches, in their yard even. Maybe they don't have a fence like we don't, and they can hang out with their dogs, and the dogs can enjoy some freedom and have a good time. Piper got upstairs, didn't he? So those are the collars that we use here. And I hope this was somewhat informative for you. I hope I didn't leave anything out, except that before you use any of these collars, you should have a trainer show you how to use them. Get some information if you've never used them before on how to use them correctly. They're meant to just be slapped on your dog's neck and then we just start giving them corrections. That's not the proper way to train. That's not the way we train, and I found that results are so much better if you train the correct ways and not try to shortcut anything. So none of these are meant for a shortcut. They're only meant to enhance the training for a period of time until, you know, we get all our goals for training underway. So that's it. Thank you. This is Robin from Mannerly Mutts.